I was particularly impressed by the quality of the data at the presidential symposium. For example, the screening study from Dr. Yang, the National Lung Cancer Screening Program in Taiwan, the TALENT study, that was really a novel way of looking at lung cancer screening, for the first time looking at never smokers or former smokers, and that's traditionally we've been screening heavy smokers, so this was a different approach. And they were able to detect quite a lot of stage 1 non-small cell lung cancers, and it's quite an encouraging and I think a good important contribution to public health. And it gives us a rethink of doing lung cancer screening. So when we looked at never smokers, they looked at this cooking index in terms of exposure to particles from cooking. And this is quite a new concept. And I think that certainly warrants further study. So that's one take home that I got. There were also more efforts devoted to early stage lung cancers improving cure rates, because all the scientific discoveries in the metastatic setting have been very encouraging, and now we can leverage the breakthroughs in immunotherapy and targeted therapy into the earlier and biomarker development into earlier stage disease to improve cure and make a more substantial difference to patients' lives. So I was happy to see two big studies looking at this setting, and the international tailored chemotherapy adjuvant trial, the ITACA final results being presented by Dr. Novello, was an attempt to look using biomarker-guided adjuvant chemotherapy. So that was a novel attempt, although we did not see in terms of practice changing results, but it was certainly informative. And similarly, the LCMC3 that was presented by Dr. Jay Lee looked at neoadjuvant atezolizumab, an immunotherapy agent, and that provided a lot more data because it's the largest trial of such to date in terms of major pathologic response, the complete pathologic response, as well as the surgical resectability, safety of these patients. It provided confidence that this novel approach to neoadjuvant therapy is feasible. It can lead to good outcomes, even though the response rate was around 20% major pathological response. We can certainly do better with new approaches, but this is already an important step forward for these patients in terms of our approach to treating the lung cancer. There were certainly more studies in the metastatic setting. I give a shout out to my fellow Australian, Michael Boyer, who presented the Keynote 598 primary results, looking at ipilimumab added to pembrolizumab in PD-L1 high expressing non-small cell lung cancers in the first-line metastatic setting. And that, although it did not show added benefit over pembro alone, which is the current standard of care, it certainly was practice-informing and raised a lot of questions in terms of the how and when should we add the CTLA-4 agent in the treatment of lung cancer. Overall, I think this was a really exciting meeting. Some new drugs being developed, hopefully closer toward approval. Antibody-drug conjugates, Trastuzumab, deruxtecan. It's a drug I've been working with for some years, targeting HER2, a new approach. And in this conference, we looked at the TDXD, or Trastuzumab deruxtecan, against HER2 protein expressing non-small cell lung cancers instead of the mutation cohort, which we looked at, was presented last year at ASCO. So this was a different subset of HER2 expressing lung cancers, and we showed some good tumor shrinkage in a subset of patients, about 25% response rate, and we saw a good durability of those responses. So I think that's a new class of drug that is to be developed for lung cancer, and I hope to see many more to come in terms of the antibody-drug conjugate space. So overall, I think a great meeting, and despite the COVID-19 pandemic and the inability to meet in person and to have that level of human interaction, I think leveraging technology, this is really a good way to continue to advance the science forward. So, because we know that cancer does not stop with COVID-19, and therefore the science needs to continue. So I'm overall very pleased to see the progress made.